basically, you see, one thing which we have to remember is that we cannot forget the fact that we have all over the world, obesity is increasing. And particularly, we discussed, as far as I was listening to earlier two speakers also, and Dr. Mittal also very beautifully touched upon, the front of package labeling and all that, and how he gave the example of Chile and, France and other European countries also. But you see, and also I was listening to, Dr. Joshi, who talked about how we can make use of the systems, how we can empower the youth, in, making the ambassadors of change, that, they can talk about healthy food choices, they can talk about, and also to add upon, I can say that they can talk about exercises, they can talk about, another part is about the balanced diet. But one thing which you have to remember is that though different programs, have tried to involve, like Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram and all that, they have tried to, focus on youth, but most important is how to empower youth, because our country is very diverse. And we will, need, in Indian context, we will need, some kind of a, labeling, which will, help, and it will percolate to all segments of society. We are not, all of us are not, the same urban elite, or there quite a substantial number of us, they belong to rural background. Then, there are people, who are the change makers, like our frontline workers who are serving at the grassroots levels, like Ashas or Anganwadi workers. Sometimes when they will visit the house, basically people are going to ask them that, is this packet healthy? Is this packet, like quick foods, particularly when we talk of foods like Maggi, or, the quick foods which will give us, the instant energy and all, they're rich in sugar. But how the community knows. So that is where we need to bring in innovations with regard to, labeling as well. Because we know that front of package labeling is going to provide quick and straightforward information to the consumers to identify food and beverages which are unhealthy. And it's a part of comprehensive health policy needed to promote healthy diets, reduce overweight, which is very, very important, obesity. And we all know that particularly most of the, NCDs, the root cause lies in basically our diet and subsequently our lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, which leads to, kind of couch potato syndrome and all that. And plus, lack of exercises. That is another important thing which you have to keep in mind. And I think this part was basically shown also, but what I would like to cover is that primarily food industry is not in, interested in this kind of labeling, that it is a toxic food, it is this kind of food and all that. And that's why when I was listening to Dr. Mittal and earlier to Dr. Joshi also, they said that they will pick, put big things in front, but the actual thing they'll put in very small letters behind the labels. That is important. So we have to look at what is there behind the label. So front of package labeling regulations, they represent a key public health measure to promote healthier food environments and address non-communicable diseases. So this is the dialogue which we all have to have with the food industry, whether it is IMA, whether it is, IAPSM, or it is, Indian Academy of Pediatrics, or, Association of Physicians of India, or together I will say, because I was president for organized medicine at my guild also, we need to have comprehensive dialogue along with WHO, which we started in 2011, but so far also we are struggling hard. So among the existing FOPL labels in nations with high rates of NCDs, warning labels have been proven to be effective, as was mentioned earlier, in changing consumer behavior. But remember, behavior change communication is something very difficult and very, very challenging also towards healthy decisions. So warning labels, they help the consumers quickly and easily identify, which we all know that ultra-processed food and beverage products hence to be, referred as UPP, which are high in sugar, sodium, and fat. Another thing, so we are worried about what are the nutrients of concern. And we know that there's large body of evidence on linking these nutrients, which have been mentioned earlier. We should have information about total calories, saturated fat and trans fat, sugar and salt. That is important. And another thing is that mandatory declaration of all these items is necessary, which will contribute to, and the percentage contribution to recommended daily allowance on the front of pack label. So, we have two parts. You can see that, part one can talk about energy, trans fat, total sugar, and salt per serve. And part 2 can talk of per serve percentage, its contribution to recommended daily allowance. Now, how do we calculate this? So calculation criteria per serve percentage contribution to RDA is based on recommended daily allowance is based on 2000 kilocalories energy, 67 grams of total fat, 2 grams of trans fat, 50 grams of sugar, and 5 grams of sodium chloride. Here you can see that when we talk of total sugar as 16, but where it is, about 32. So it is, labeled as red. So that is important. So high fat, sugar, and salt should be colored red. If energy from total sugar is more than 10% of the energy provided by 100 grams per 100 ml of the product, or energy kilocalories from trans fat is more than 1% of the energy which is provided by 100 gram per 100 ml of the product, total fat and sodium content are more than, the threshold value, then you label it as red. So what is the, challenge of FOPL? Recently, we know that, ultra processed processing food industry has shifted its stance from outright opposing FOPL to seeking, to weaken the policy standards and requirement. Whereas, the governments have approved FOPL, industries are attempting to delay implementation and avoid compliance through multiple tactics. In 2021, the Global Health Advocacy Incubator, they monitored this industry's attempts to weaken FOPL standards in 20 geographies, and this report highlights the actions and narratives by the industry. So I will recommend that one should go through this report of Global Health Advocacy Incubator 2021. So this corporate playbook is composed of 4 main strategies. One is that you protect the UPP industry's reputation and brands through corporate washing. That is number 1. Influence the policies through multilateral bodies to delay implementation and threaten the countries with legal and economic concerns. That is important part which you have to remember, that these food industries are very strong and they are also aiming to divert attention. Though they focus on that theirs is a corporate social responsibility, but they tend to divert the attention of the corporate social responsibility on the damage to environmental and human health to blame individuals for their behavior. So remember that they're talking about the behaviors, not about the product, and imply that the products contribute to health, the environment, and society while blocking the development and implementation of healthy food policies. So this is where we need to talk about that this corporate playbook is, basically flying around, or it is toying around these 4 important things. So, we have to be beware of the corporate washing as well. So another thing which is very important is that every time you can see that, as earlier also it was shown by, Dr. Joshi and I think Dr. Mittal as well, he showed that, how front of package labeling will catch the attention of a young mind or an individual is that in the front you write whatever, in a big way, but on the back it is written in such a manner that nobody can make out. And then also, they use different narratives, arguments, symbols, and actions are used by UPP industry to position and protect its commercial and financial performance. Because this is what no industry is, going to agree to the fact, and we have to be very smart as, the health ambassadors, that this is where we do not get into the, trap of food industries, and we need to go straight in terms of, what is front of package labeling. The industry performs multiple brand washing activities that capitalizes on the social, economic, nutritional, health, gender, cultural, and environmental causes. So in Israel, basically UPP-friendly shelf dispensers strategically have been designed to hide or sabotage FOP labels which have been detected. So that is important. Another thing is that by co-opting multilateral bodies at global level, regional level, local level, the UPP industry guarantees, the normative frameworks and contexts that allows it to expand its agro business and avoid and weaken the regulations around healthy food policies. So that is where we need to have in black and white what are our healthy food policies, and this is where monitoring will play a critical role, so that at no point of time we can weaken the regulations which are surrounding around the healthy food policies. That is important. Another thing is that even though corporate practices have globally shaped unhealthy food environments, the industry also fails to take any responsibility for the environmental and human health damage they cause. So this is where one can play a very, very important role while having a dialogue with the food industry. So while promoting freedom of choice arguments publicly, corporations and their allies, they put the burden of NCDs on individuals, they avoid liability, and challenges, and they challenge public health laws and policies worldwide in order to protect their interests. So another thing is that the industry also assigns unique attributes to UPP to build loyalty and guarantee consumptions over a period of time, with special attention on children. Remember that this is where we have to be very, very cautious, because these UPP industries are basically ultra processing products, food industries. They are capturing the population, which is majority of it is a childhood population. And then also, it highlights these product characteristics, and companies, they often use their relationships and multiple tactics to cast doubts and confusion around the evidence and effectiveness of public health measures. So this is where we, as I said, that we need to have our policy in black and white. Now, if we look at the example of Coca-Cola South Africa, one of the biggest sugar sweetening beverages company, ironically, it committed to tackling NCDs, particularly obesity, and to create healthier food and more sustainable food environment. So this is what is written on top, that Coca-Cola is committed to in actions that will support healthier food environments. Now, in what way? This is what we have to see, because Coca-Cola has not gone out of our lives. So this is where we see that how ironically they are committed to tackling, whether it's only, if the brand is there, the product is there, we'll not be able to solve the issue. That is important. So already, the Chile case study has already been mentioned. Primarily, they talk about, they mention about the calories, they mention about the saturated fats, they mention about the, the sodium content, they mention about the salt content. So Chile case study mentioned about all food and beverages which exceeded the limits were or are required to have a front of package black and white warning, which message reads that high in, that is important, that high in salt, high in calories, high in fat, that is important, which is followed by nutrient exceeding in limit, as well as, and it is endorsed by Ministry of Health. So studies, this is one of the important studies which has demonstrated that, FOPL has worked well. And Chile has mandated, basically high in warning labels considered the golden standard FOPL, which restricted sale marketing to children. Remember, this was very effective for children, and banned in school the sale of packaged food. This is what in Indian context also we need to do. And this is what is a critical role of professional association, where IIMS has got a very critical role to play. And we need to do the school audits also in this regard. So, we have to ban the school sales of packaged foods and beverages, having basically, HFSS black octagons with the words high in sugar, sodium, saturated fats and calories, whichever applies, by making FOPL mandatory. And already we have got the example of Chile in front of us. Now, another thing is that basically this paper was also published, in PLOS Medicine, that is evaluation of Chile's law of food labeling and advertisement on sugar sweetened beverages purchases from 2015 and 17, which shows that, afterwards we knew that, if you can read the conclusions, that purchases of high in beverages significantly declined following implementation of Chile's law of food labeling and advertisement also. Now, another thing which is important is that in India, we have got food safety standards, which is regard to packaging and labeling regulation 2011. So Food Safety Standards Authority of India has undertaken revision of existing packaging and labeling, and it has been split into 3 separate regulations as under. First is that draft packaging regulations are there, draft advertisement and claims regulation, and draft labeling regulation. So this part is in red, because this is something which needs to be reinforced post from, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. So you see, it aimed at establishing requirement for, FSSAI. It aimed at establishing requirements for labeling of pre-packaged food to provide simple, easy to understand information to the consumer and facilitate them in making healthier food choices. Prescribed requirements for front of package labeling, which includes, labeling of energy, total fat, trans fat, total sugar, and salt on front of package, along with their percentage contribution to, RDA and HFSS labeling. This is very, very important. So we have to have mandatory declarations of this, which I already mentioned. So, and on the, back of the pack, as has been demonstrated by FSAI, these all informations, they need to be, mentioned, and they need to be mentioned in bold. That is important, and including micronutrients and minerals and vitamins also. But nutrients and, micronutrients should not divert us from the fact that we are compromising on energy, protein, carbohydrate, sugar, trans fat, and all that. We have to have the complete information. That is important. So, basically, in 2018, FSSAI published a draft regulation on front of pack nutrition labeling and made them available to public online. And it considered different symbols, nutrient profiling models, and it proposed a format based on nutrient level cutoffs derived using the recommended RDA allowance for children. But what is the story so far? In 2018, after multiple discussions, FOPL was shelved out by FSSAI, probably due to pressure from the industry. This is where all of us have to have a continuous pressure from professional associations on FSSAI. In 2020, again, the discussions have been revived in a positive way, and working group is, working on the development of nutritional cutoffs and label designs. So again and again, we rework our strategy. In 2021, FSSAI is closing on FOPL system, and we as public health community should advocate for a strong interpretative need-based FOPL in India. Why I say need-based? Because our country is very diverse, to reduce mortality and morbidity due to non-communicable diseases. So another thing is that basically, as of now, whatever, labeling we have, that is aimed at only literate and who are nutritionally aware. Almost a quarter of our Indian population is illiterate. Therefore, pictorial representation will allow better engagement and understanding. It is crucial to have a positive participation of the food industry and of society as well. Unfortunately, Indian food industries have expressed many concerns, but this is where we as, I'll say, important stakeholders from the health community need to come forward. Over the, basically we need to work on a format which is because one size is not going to fit all. That is important part. And then, though color works well in, in Indian settings, but then, I also feel that one color should not deteriorate everybody from buying that. But over a period of time, which I've seen, the industries have started doing in different countries. And then, if they mark it as red color, they should have a, it is a warning for the industry as well, that they need to reduce the proportion of that content as well. And our industry's argument is also that positive and voluntary labeling is accepted in many countries and should be encouraged in India, whereas the need of the hour is that front of package labeling should be using the consumers and stakeholders input. That is important. So another area, basically is to, we need to see that what is being dished out to our children on the TV screen, because what they are going to see, as I said, that our food industry is very strong. They target the children, and that is where they become, kind of, I'll say, our parents also, are carried away by this. So knowledge of parents is also equally very, very important. So according to various reports, the food industry, as I told you, is eyeing on children, and children now see 33% more fast food TV ads as they did 6 to 7 years ago, while preschoolers see 21% more, which is alarming. Measures such as FOPL and marketing restrictions, I'll say the second one is more important, the marketing restrictions. These are few solutions which can address the diet-related disease epidemics, and we need to focus on behavior change communication as to slowly how to change our behavior from, these foods to, the healthy diets as well. So world over, countries are prioritizing such actions, and India is also in the process of taking a step in this direction to build nutrition secure and healthy future. So our way forward is front of package labeling supported by public education of both adult and children. We need to focus on nutritional literacy. And FOPL regulation should be framed as per consumption practices of the individual country. There is a need to generate awareness about critical indicators like color, size, taste, flavor, nutrition level, calories, etc. Good publicity in social and print media to emphasize the importance of nutrition and FOPL in regular food choices. And as I've been telling you, the role of professional associations, including IMA and Association of Family Care Physicians of India and WHO, is very crucial in form of having a dialogue with the industry and issuing advisory to the government. Thank you so much. Thank you.